Hello, family. We're going to talk about the 7 brutal truths that come with being an empath, or at least being one that's self-aware and has been on this journey of recovery, because that's what it is, for a while. I'm prompted to do this, as is what usually happens on my channel. I'm prompted to do it by some recent events, more than one, because that's my life. It's important to know that we're not alone, and that this really is, there are some wonderful gifts that come with being empathic, which I've had people ask me before, what does that mean? It's a relative term, I suppose. I'm not even sure how the dictionary would define it, frankly. And if it is defined, it's a recent definition. In my mind, the people in my tribe who are empathic are highly aware. They're ultra sensitive to what's going on around them, and have to be really, truly very careful about all of the excess insanity allowed inside the bubble or circle, if you will, because it just poisons the air we breathe. Now, we're not the only ones that happens to, of course. Everyone, as is pretty easy to see right now, is affected. However, when it comes to empaths, we are hyper affected, and the roots of that, at least for empaths like us, are trauma. And that's not an opinion. That's a fact. I said empaths like us. If you define yourself as some other kind of empath, then perhaps it is a different definition. I don't know. The first truth is that others do not care as deeply as we do, and they never will. That is a really hard truth to swallow. I have spent a great deal of my life, I suppose some would consider it like Don Quixote and the windmills, but then perhaps others would see it as I do, or as I often do, which is that walking along the shore and picking up the starfish and throwing one back in, and you keep doing that, and the person comes along. You've all heard this story. And they say, why are you doing that? You're not making a difference. And you say, well, I made a difference to that one. Yeah, that's the really awesome part about empathy. However, and it is a big however, it's a big but. You knew that was coming. We cannot make others care like we do. And we waste so much time in trying to force that upon others. We can certainly plant a seed, and then moving on is the most difficult part of that. So that's brutal truth number 1. We just cannot make others care like we do, almost always. We can make them, not make them, that's the wrong word, and here words matter. We can help them to see a bigger picture, but we cannot make them care. The second brutal, harsh truth is that the character asset of advocacy and loyalty, which I think go hand in hand, at least they do for me, becomes a liability in the hands of those who use it for their own purposes. So there are people who, and a lot of them, choose to stay in learned helplessness. And yes, I'm choosing my words very carefully because we can all find ourselves there at one point or another. We get so worn down that you're just like, oh my God, I just give up. That's kind of like the intensive care stage, right? But you don't get to stay in intensive care. And some choose to stay there, and then they give the rest of whatever classification label people are putting on that particular group a bad name. And so I have much less tolerance for those people because that is a choice. And when you have worked very hard on becoming a better person, I really have little time for those who aren't. Enough said there, I guess. Brutal truth number 3, we're all empaths. We're on a journey of recovery of one form or another, right? So empaths of our kind who have been traumatized, and more often than not, traumatized in multiple ways, consistent, long-term, which brings in the C of CPTSD. Not everyone is, and even those who are at various stages. So conflicts and hurt and misunderstandings are going to happen. And this is something I have to remind myself of. It has been a great challenge for me. And anyone who knew me way back when would tell you that staying in the pause was not something that was inherent to my personality. That's what I have learned to do, is to go into the pause. And that's where I'm at right now with something that just happened, actually. And so it allows me to marinate and maybe to just sit still with it. And then there are times when, after I've sat still with it, I seek outside counsel of one form or another. I'm getting better at being more patient with those who certainly are working on being the best version of themselves, because it's like the big book says, the AAs call it the big book. If everybody would just get on the stage and we could arrange it the way we want, everything would be fine. But no, that is what I'm learning to become patient with. Well, I don't know if that would be correct, but I am learning to pause with it. And there has been wisdom that has come with that. Again, that saying comes to mind, and I didn't certainly come up with it, but I heard it from my old sponsor, long gone. God, I miss Sharon, for the first time, and then several times after, of course. Anything I've ever let go of has had my claw marks all over it, which just means acceptance comes very hard to those of us who have lost an awful lot. But we get there, or we die, I guess. And so number 4, you will be too much for some people. You will be too loud. And these are all things that came off the top of my head, as I've been called these, like by my own daughter and others. Too loud, too divisive, too domineering. Oh my God. A vulture therapist uses that as one of her talking points. Too opinionated, too elitist. I love that one. That gets shoved at me because I think. And too different. Always too much, too something. Fuck that. Yeah. Number 5, there will be times when you have to pull back from other empaths, and I put these words out there simply because we're all familiar with them and they feel like familiar terms, not because I necessarily believe that is who we are. However, they do describe aspects of us. In some aspects, right at the very core. Certainly broken is a descriptive word. Damaged, absolutely. And I'm always reminded of the land of misfit toys in that Christmas movie. So if you're in the land of misfit toys and you are a misfit toy, every once in a while, your hard edges are going to come out, no matter how hard you work on yourself. And so then you just have to go into your little pause or your little hovel or your little space. And you have to stay away from other misfit toys. And certainly the normal, privileged people of the world who have not yet or will never understand that kind of trauma. You have to stay away from all of them, because if you're a dog in a cage and this person has come in there over and over and over again consistently and kicked you, no matter what the other people are like, you're gonna not trust and you're gonna nip. And so yeah, that's what I mean by that. So you have to take a pause. And sometimes that pause can be for a really long time. Because people really are, I don't know who came up with that reason, season, or lifetime thing, but it's true. At least in my experience, it has been true. It's like a river, and I don't know. For those of us who have been abandoned or exiled, maybe, or thrown away or whatever, it's like you kind of get stuck on this bank of the river and you don't really belong anywhere anymore. 6. Oh, there are times when you will not get an apology. Actually, a lot. No matter how spot on or right or correct or what you can prove, it doesn't matter. You will not get an acknowledgement. You will not get an apology. You will not get, at best, you might get silence. And in fact, the more correct you are, or perhaps the more you can prove through pictures that there are untruths, your character is being assassinated, whatever the reality is, gaslighting will occur on the dysfunctional side of the planet, I guess is the best way I know how to put that. Pride is a fierce, formidable, fear-filled foe. And 7, there are times when you're going to get really tired of your own shit. Yeah. Today is one of those times. And I think it's probably because, I'm the first few years I was in recovery and gathered up all those tools. And there are so many. One of them was HALT. So the acronym, hungry, angry, lonely, tired. I added sick to the end. So when she feels any of these things or experiences, she halts. I added sick because sick can be applied to either physical or mental. Dis-ease. Because that's a better descriptor for physical, certainly, but mentally not at ease. Sometimes I get really tired of the struggle. Oh, wait, I was talking about how I get tired of my shit. I get tired of that too. And I was talking about halts. God, I'm going to really have to edit the hell out of this thing. No, I'm not. There won't be anybody watching this far anyway. So there are, you'll get really tired of your own shit. And you just gotta, you gotta realize that and say it out loud. My grandson reached out for the first time. I mean, he made a comment several months ago on the Just Medicate Me social media page on the Facebook page, and it was one comment, and that was it. And I actually corrected my course because of that comment. It was awesome. But anyhow, I hadn't heard from him in months and months and didn't really expect to. And then out of nowhere, as the result of a meme that I had created, my latest one, and posted, which, by the way, has gone viral, we had quite a conversation, and I've been sitting with that for quite some time. And I think the only thing I'll say right now is that I'm really so grateful for it on so many levels, not the least of which is that he had the calm, stable demeanor of his uncle and my son. And it was so good to connect with him, and when he shared with me what he did, I then knew that he remembered when he was little and all the time we spent together, because I wasn't sure that he would remember. So I think that's all. Thanks for stopping by.